Hello, hello. Come on in and get comfortable. Welcome to PEPTalk, this episode of Productive Environment Podcast. We are excited to have you here to talk about how tools should make our life easier, right? Tools should make our life easier. This should be easier. And let me just start here as you guys are getting settled in. I don't know if you guys saw the email I sent out today, depending on when you're watching this, but you saw, some of you, and if you're watching the weather over this past week, everybody saw that North Carolina, all 100 counties of North Carolina got snow this past weekend, including Southeast North Carolina, which is where I am, Carolina Beach, Wilmington area. We all got snow. Now, I had been begging for snow, praying for snow. We want snow, Barbara. You guys are so lucky. You always get snow and we don't. And now that we have it, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for it to go. It's like, I just want it for a day because
too much of a good thing, right?
I know, too much of a good thing. Yeah, let me take this off so we can chat. And my email this morning was talking about how we at the beach, we are equipped. We're equipped for hurricanes. We're equipped for floods even. We're equipped for hot weather, but we're not so equipped for snow. And so, you guys have, I'm sure, just 2 hours north of us, you guys have snow plows and you have all those things for dealing with snow. And we don't. So that is we actually have a few things. We do have some, but not to the level of other people. So, or other areas. So let me just share briefly, just to give you context. You guys do know, we for those of you that have been around us, you know that we are systems-oriented people. We do have systems, and we have a system for helping our clients go from overwhelmed to optimized. And today we're talking about equip. We're talking about tools. And in our case today, we're talking about office tools, productivity tools, things like that. And we see that people are working harder. They're working hard and sometimes still feeling stuck. So if that's you, I want you to pay attention today because the way that you're set up might be working against you. Okay. It might be the tools. It may not be you. It may not be you. It may be the tools that you're using. So today we want to talk about tools, not apps, not gadgets, but how to think about being properly equipped without creating more overwhelm. So if you are just joining us for the first time, welcome to PEPTalk, Productive Environment Podcast. I am Andrea Anderson. I'm the CEO of Productive Environment Institute, and I am here in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, still with snow on the ground, which hasn't happened in 40 years, this much snow. So anyway, and I am joined by...
I'm Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute, and I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And we are glad you are here, whether this is your first time with us or if you've been listening for a while. And if you're one of our SOAR members, like Mr. Dan is here, welcome, Dan. Dan says, glad to be here. Yep. So glad you're here with us as well. And so let's talk about, tools can sound boring. Like, what are we going to talk about? Tools. So let's talk about that. So when we hear in our world, in our, I don't know what the word is, sphere of influence, we are talking about productivity tools. We're talking about organizing tools, systems, things like that. And people usually think of planners, apps, or supplies, right? Okay. And Nancy says, cool cartoon of the two of you. Thanks, Nancy. We were having fun with Chat GPT. I'll teach you guys how to do it if you want. Not today, right now, but it's fun. But tools are really about support. Okay. And the right tools make things easier, such as a snow plow versus sandbags when we have a snowstorm versus a hurricane. The wrong tools can make simple things feel exhausting. Okay. And most people assume that if something feels hard, that they just need to try harder. Right. But really, it could be the tool is the issue. So very often it's a setup issue, not a personal one. And Barbara, I want to pause here and have you weigh in because you have been organizing offices, home offices, business offices, and teaching others, teaching our certified productive environment specialists how to do this for nearly 50 years. I know you guys are shocked. She doesn't look a day over 39, but she's been doing this for 50 years. And I'm going to guess, well, actually, I already know, that you didn't start out having a set of tools that you, they developed over time. I think you talked about having, you discovered after organizing hundreds of people that there was a specific set of tools. Now, we're not going to actually teach those specific tools today, but we're going to talk about what was going on with you where you realized, okay, every office needs this certain set of tools in order to be productive. So help us where how you came up with the specific tools that we teach today.
Well, it goes back to growing up on the farm in Nebraska.
I figured it did.
Yeah. My daddy used to say, I mean, we were poor and often he couldn't buy what he wanted to fix something. And we had junk piles everywhere. And so there was barbed wire. And I don't think way back in the beginning, there wasn't duct tape, but I can remember him putting things together. And he would say half of any job is having the right tool. Through the years, we've changed that to half of any job is using the right tools, because a lot of people have them but don't use them. So that's where it really started. But if I think about it, I started using, and it depends on what you use, what the definition of tool is. So I'll give you one very simple example of a tool, which is a cardboard box, a shoebox. Because when I first started organizing homes, one of the forms of clutter were photographs. And people would have packages of photographs with the negatives and they'd be in the drawer in the kitchen and beside the bedside table and in the closets and, just all over the place. And it's like, okay, obviously this isn't going to work. And one of our principles that we talk about here all the time, we applied here, which is today's mail is tomorrow's pile. So we'd say, okay, we have to stop the problem first. The first thing we have to do before we can fix it is stop it. Because if you're always fixing it, then you're never going to be successful. So the first tool I introduced for that was a shoebox with the lid off. Because I put the lid underneath it, because if the lid was on top and you were coming in with a package of photographs, because in a shoebox, back then the size was exactly the same. You could put that packet in chronological order in that shoebox so that the most recent was at the front. But if the lid was on the shoebox and you were in a hurry, you would dump it on top of the shoebox and the system fell apart. So we take the lid off, put it on the bottom, which meant you could put them until they were full. Then you put the lid on, and on the outside of the box, you would put the dates of when it started and when it finished, which means you had stopped the problem. Then you could go back later on. They were in chronological order. You could sort them and you do. So that's my first example of tool. But then, and in fact, I don't even know if you know this, Andrea, but in the late 80s, there was a retired Navy captain and I worked on creating an organizing store, because I would spend so much of my time going and finding tools, and they would be random.
Yes.
So I would spend hours going to this store and finding this and this and this and this. And then I go back to get it the next time and they weren't there. So we spent months getting the SKUs and collecting them and putting them in catalogs and all kinds of stuff. Well, obviously it didn't happen, but another woman in that area did. And she had a store similar to what's now called the Container Store. It was called the Place for Everything. It was in Virginia.
Wow.
And it was places that I went all the time to get tools, because really, I don't know, more than half of the work that we do with somebody has to do with choosing and using the right tools.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And one thing that we notice is that people don't actually lack tools. I think you just gave a great example of that. It's not a matter of not having tools. If you are like me and most of us, but certainly I can speak for our certified productive environment specialists that are like me, we love tools. We love the planners. We love the apps. We love a stapler. We love. I remember growing up, I wanted to be a teacher, and that was the best Christmas presents, birthday presents that you could give me were teacher supplies, thumbtacks, paper clips, the grade book. Oh my gosh. And of course, the best thing of all was the red pen, because that red pen had so much power. So we have tools, but they're usually too many tools.
Well, I was going to say, we talk about clutter. What we have is tool clutter. Most people have tool clutter. And that was true when we were worth the paper. And now if you go to the digital age, I would say everybody has tool clutter. And then you take it, you take AI into it, and now you even more. So I think the challenge, I mean, I've said to many people, I feel like that the clutter is postponed decisions that I started almost 50 years ago was for this moment in history, because every single person is dealing with clutter in every area. And a lot of those are tools that were meant to make life easier, but in fact, make life more challenging and more overwhelming.
Yeah. And think about why, if you're agreeing with us and going, oh yeah, I've got this tool and that tool and this app and that app, think about where they came from. In a lot of cases, myself included, someone recommended something. I was on a webinar and somebody said, oh, have you tried this? And I have to give Barbara credit on this, because ChatGPT is like all the rage, right? Everybody, people are born now as babies knowing how to use ChatGPT. But Barbara was the first. Barbara, you asked me, hey, have you heard of ChatGPT? And I said no. So you knew about it before I did a few years ago. So anyway, that's a new tool, right? And I have recommended it to people. So you guys probably have tools that we have recommended. Maybe you had something that was for a specific season. You bought something, and maybe you had a specific project and you bought things for that. And then you bought something that solved one problem but created three more. I mean, there's those situations too, where you end up with all of this this bin clutter, bins and totes. We love bins and totes, don't we? Because no one ever helped you decide what each tool is for, everything starts to feel messy again. And I want to use an example, Barbara, of you. We've got a video of you in the early 90s. I was fresh out of high school. Going to college at UNC Wilmington, North Carolina. And you were interviewed on, I don't remember if it was the Today Show or Good Morning America, the specific one, but you were interviewed about a set of tools that you recommend to clients to create a productive environment, to create a productive workspace. And in fact, Eds, if you'll link to that video at the end of this in the description, guys, make your way over to YouTube and you can catch that video. But the point is, those foundational, the reason for each tool still exists. The need for each tool still exists. The form of each tool has changed in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases. And the best example of that, I think, is I love sharing it, Barbara, when you are just sharing the most revolutionary tool ever to help people keep up with contact information, names and phone numbers, right, guys? That's known now as a CRM and all this high tech stuff. And Barbara was on that TV show teaching people how that they needed a Rolodex, right?
Yep.
So the need is still there to have something to organize the people in your life, the contact information for people in your life. But the form of the tool has changed. But it's really important that each tool that we have has a role. It has a clear role, because tools without clear roles turn into clutter. Okay. So Barbara, over those years, saw patterns. can you talk a little bit about what those patterns were that you saw? We're not sharing the specific tools. Guys, I'll show you how to get a download that lists these tools at the end of this. But Barbara, what patterns were you seeing that helped you say, hey, we need this kind of tool, or we need this kind of tool? You can mention them. We're just not going to teach them all in order on this call. So.
Well, it's interesting. Yes, I'm stumbling because I don't need patterns. I'm not exactly sure what you mean in that case.
In my mind, I know when I learned how to do what we now call the office transformation, an office transformation for someone, we used to call it the 8-hour miracle. One of the first things that happens is we call the first sort, and it's making those decisions about what needs to happen with this particular piece of paper next. So there needs to be tools in place for that stuff to flow. Otherwise, it just piles on the desk. So you started seeing, oh, okay, here's this piece of paper is related to contact information. We need a place to capture content. That's kind of what I mean by the patterns.
Well, I mean, one of the patterns that I saw, and you mentioned the Rolodex already, because that was one of the first tools, because people would have Post-it notes and napkins and business cards and stuff like that everywhere that they weren't willing to part with, didn't know what they were. And that, that became a huge issue. And, I think I want to go back a little bit. I think that often we choose the tool thinking that the tool is going to be the solution when we haven't really identified what the problem is.
Bingo. Stop right there, Barbara. Stop right there. Hold on one second. Please come back to that. That is why assessment comes before equipment. Assessment comes before equipment. Okay, so go ahead.
So the question is, what problem are you trying to solve? And this is where the art comes in, because different people are going to solve it in different ways, and our personalities affect that immensely. I think about Carrie Thomas, one of our certified productive environment specialists, who specializes especially with people with ADHD who like visual things, and they want to be able to see things. And so the tools that they need to be very different than someone that likes things hidden away. Organizing means I don't want to see them. And so what the joy for me, and it's what we call the art of organizing, is figuring out what problem you're trying to solve first, and then go to the tool, not buy the tool. In fact, I have said many times that the Container Store creates more clutter than it solves. And I have seen that through the years. And in fact, when it was first created, I went to management and said, let's partner together. Let's teach people how to use this. And they weren't open to it because they said, that's what we're going to do. I don't know whether they really intended to do that or whether it was just greed and they just want people to buy it. But I don't think it isn't working as a long term, because if you buy a lot of long term, and people will go in and say, oh, this matches my dining room table, I'm going to put it here. And then they go home and try to figure out. And probably 8 times out of 10, it's not really the right tool. So we are organizing first. And we have a 5-step process that we use, the productive environment process, which starts with state your vision. So it's like what Proverbs says, without a vision, the people perish. So if you're trying to organize your photographs or your email or anything, it's like, well, we first have to say, what would that look like? What would it feel like? And then from there, we can say, what have we tried before? And lots of times, one of my favorite stories, I probably told this on here before, but it's still one of my favorites. It was in January. I was on an airplane sitting next to a woman who pulled out a leather planner pad, and she went, and I looked at her and said, wow, that was a big sigh. She said, I must be hopeless. I said, what do you mean? She said, my husband bought me this multi-$100 planner, and I don't even know where to start. Now, we've heard stories like that over and over, but this one was so dramatic because it really was very expensive. We spent the entire flight, I think it was over 2 hours, removing categories from the planner because they weren't really anything that and we look at it and say, oh, this should work. I should do this. How many times we say, oh, that's a good idea. I should do it. It's completely backwards to say you should do it. It's like, what do I want to do? What do I need to do?
Yeah. You also have an example of you had a tool, you had a tote. Like I said, we like totes. You had a tote, you had a nice, expensive tote bag, and you ended up gluing the pocket closed.
That's right. It had a whole lot of pockets in it, and I had this. Back then, I used to carry a planner pad that was paper. So I would buy a combination briefcase and handbag. It was one. Now I never buy one that didn't fit my planner pad, and I never bought one that didn't have a separate pocket for car keys. And then as we got phones, then for phone. Well, I got one. It was beautiful. It was brown leather. It was really gorgeous. It had a whole bunch of pockets, and I couldn't remember which one I put it in. And I was going to donate it. And I thought, wait, no, I got super glue, and I just glued some of them shut.
You glued some of the pockets shut so you didn't use them. And so what you used it for was exactly what you wanted. Otherwise, you were wasting time. Like, where did I put that? Digging through. I just love that.
Oh, and it used to just make me so aggravated when you'd go somewhere, a businesswoman especially. I mean, you'd see a businesswoman well-dressed and, whatever, and then digging through trying to find the keys or whatever. And it's like, that's not necessary. I mean, if you have a pattern and you have a right to, sometimes it's going to happen. Of course, it's happened to me sometimes, but not every time. And I have friends that it happens every single time.
Yeah. You know who it doesn't happen to? I've got to talk about him, is Demetrius with his fanny pack. People he's worn a fanny pack for decades, and people make fun of him, and he doesn't care because it's functional. He never has to wonder where his keys are, where his wallet is, where his ID is, any of that. So same kind of concept there. So let me share Kathy's comment here. Kathy Music, New Path Productivity. For myself, I have to guard against use and management of the tool becoming more cumbersome than the problem it is meant to solve. That is so true.
Seen that so many, because the ad looks good, or the friend that referred it is someone you respect and someone you want to be like. It's like, okay, I want to be like her there, and that's the tool she uses, therefore that's the one I'm going to use. And it doesn't work that way. That's why we call it the art. I mean, we're so passionate about this being an art and not a science, and asking, what will I do?
What will I do? Exactly. And now there are times that there's a learning curve. I think about our SOAR board, because SOAR meaning systemized and organized with action and reference. We have a tool that we use and we teach. Sometimes that can feel like that. Like, oh my gosh, can I just make a list? I think,
one of the things that we tell clients all the time is you do have to use it long enough to be able to measure why or why not you do not like it. So if you just try something and then, it doesn't work, and throw it away, well, you need to analyze why. And this is where you started at the beginning by saying what you need often is not the tool, but the support.
Right.
One of the biggest roles that we play is being the support to help people use the tools they already have, or identify whether they actually need a new tool. And so at least 90 days is a really good, at least 30 days. I mean, you really have to try this, because it does involve habit and customization, just like the example of gluing the pockets is a good example.
That's right.
Something is, or I remember when I first started, everybody had phones on their desk. And one of the issues was, which side of the desk do you put the phone on? And when I first started, nobody thought about that. No one thought about that, but it made a difference. Based on the room. But that was like, well, what difference does it make? Well, they soon found out, this does really make a difference. So we're just being conscious is such that what's working and what isn't working, and why is it, and what do I like? And it's also one of the ways to help people choose tools was I would look at what tools they did like and what was working. But then you could analyze why, and then how can we translate that over into something else?
Yeah. And so really discovering what the tool, knowing before you go spend money on a tool, what do you need it to do? What function? Not just because it's pretty and would look good on your desk. So that's why we don't really start with tools. If you saw on our 9 steps, we start with the assessment, and tools is number 2. And we teach, do not move forward with any additional things that we teach until you've got those tools in place. And what's really interesting, Barbara, is a lot of people have most of those tools. They say, oh yeah, I have that. Yeah, I have that too. I have that too. But the way they work together synergistically is the difference, and the way they're located, where they are in proximity to you at your desk. So,
well, it's putting the tools into a system. So we use the acronym system, right. Saving you space, time, energy, and money. And so the tools put in the right places end up being a system as opposed to being clutter. I mean, a lot of people have the tools in their office, but they are clutter. And then when they take the tools out and put them the way we suggest that you do, then they suddenly become a system and the whole world has changed.
Yeah. It's like, you had it the whole time, but it was just, once it's in the system, it makes a lot more sense. So, but back to the assessment, until you understand where friction is happening, it's impossible to choose the right support. That's why we do the assessment first, figure out what it is that's stopping you. What is making those piles pile up on your desk? What is allowing those emails to pile up in your email account? Addressing that and assessing, your situation and what you need it to do before we go out and start getting tools. And that's the other thing. I used to do this. We are helpers by nature. Those of us that are in this industry, if you tell us an organizing challenge that you have, our wheels are already turning, solving that problem for you. We're like, oh, here's what you need. And a lot of professional organizers do that. I had to restrain myself. We have to step back and not do that. Like, we don't want to jump in too soon and say, oh, I know exactly what you need. Even if we're feeling it inside, we need to go through a process and really evaluate, is it truly what you need, and evaluate what it is you're trying to solve. So we don't end up fixing symptoms instead of the real problem. So at a very high level, tools should do a few simple things. Okay. They should help you decide what requires action. They should help you store what you need to keep, right? Tool for that. They should help you let go of what no longer matters. Can you imagine what that tool is? And they should make next steps easier to see. If a tool isn't doing those things, it's probably not the right tool or not the right time. So go back and listen to that again. I would repeat it, but we're short on time. Go back and listen to those, what the purpose of the tool. We want to make sure our tools are doing those things. So this is also why we use assessment before we equip. When someone completes our productive environment scorecard, that's part of our assessment, they receive what we call an office transformation blueprint. And I'm going to tell you guys how you can get that blueprint right now. It outlines the core tools that we use in our system and the role each one plays. So that's listed. It's a blueprint, though. It's not instructions. It doesn't teach. You can see what they are, but it doesn't teach you how to place them and all of that. That comes later on in our workshop that I'll share with you in just a second. But it helps you see what's missing when you look at the list. It doesn't expect you to figure everything out on your own. So the real transformation, as we wrap up, the real transformation happens when tools are set up and used in context. Okay. That's what we do inside our SOAR into Action workshop. We teach you what tools to use. We'll tell you exactly the brands we get and why we get them. And the more important than that is the placement and how they function and help you create a productive environment. So we have an upcoming SOAR into Action workshop that you can enroll in, and you will get all the details. We help you move from the assessment piece into the equipment piece, into action, step by step. So your tools are actually supporting your life, not competing with it. So if tools have felt, there's on the screen is the website to sign up for the upcoming workshop, workshop.productiveenvironment.com. So if tools have felt overwhelming, if your systems feel patched together, or if you're tired of working harder without seeing lasting change, you have 2 good next steps. Okay. One is, as if you'll switch that link there to complete the productive environment scorecard. If you complete the scorecard, you will get a free download of our office transformation blueprint, and it does list the 7 tools that we recommend. Okay. And then, of course, if you join us, step 2 is to join us for our SOAR into Action workshop, where we'll show you how to turn insight into a working system. Okay, so you'll learn all the tools, why they're placed the way they are, and you'll be able to set up your own, I call it the bones, the skeleton, the bones of a system, the framework, that sounds better, of your productive environment. In that workshop, you're not going to organize all your stuff, but you're going to set up the tools and the system and learn a simple process for creating your productive environment. It's the first step. Okay. So we're going to add the links to both of those in the description box. If you are joining us anywhere else, please make your way over to YouTube, over to our YouTube channel, and like this video, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. And we go live most Tuesdays at noon Eastern time. So we would love to have you, and you can always come back and watch the replay if you miss it. Barbara, any closing thoughts on tools?
I just go back to what we said at the beginning. Half of any job is using the right tool. And if you're not sure that you have it or that you're using the ones you have, then you want to join us, because we have years of experience and lots of people who have tools that will find the one that's exactly for you so that you can master the art of productivity.
Awesome. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.